We are back for another episode of Campus Catchup, episode 3. It's definitely a thing now. Definitely a thing.
Definitely a thing.
Episode 3. This episode, like I mentioned at the end of episode 2, we're going to be talking about athletics. But before we get into the greater conversation, I wanted to just have a quick update and get your thoughts on some things. So It's starting to get nice out, here on campus. The weather's starting to become, in the 60s, 70s. It was a little, snowing in the morning today and, a little rainy and stuff. But what are some of your favorite things to do when it gets nice out?
My favorite things to do when it gets nice out. So one, here on campus, you just got to get out and walk around because you see people, you talk to people, and it's just fun.
Yeah.
It's like everyone's feeling better when the snow is gone, starting to see buds on the trees. I spent too much time this morning watching a squirrel chase around a tree. Like, it's all just fun. You just like to get out. Off campus, it's starting to get nice. You got to hit the golf course. You got to get out and do some hiking and some walking on some of the great trails and in the parks we have here. But most importantly, for those of you who know me, you got to put the top down on the car and turn the tunes up really loud and drive fast.
Have you been able to take it out yet?
Oh yeah. I'll have it tomorrow too. The weather's supposed to get better. I'll drive it.
All right. Before I graduate, I gotta go.
We gotta go out.
I
Yeah,
gotta
absolutely. It's a deal. It's a deal.
One thing I wanted to mention too is, I was walking around on campus the other day, and I love seeing like people out on the lawn, playing spike ball, like throwing the football. I think, especially after COVID, colleges need more of that sense of community where people are, not afraid to be around each other and just having fun outside. So that definitely warmed my heart. And I had some people over at my house too this past weekend. We're playing ping pong. We have a little like golf putt thing. My dad, he was around because I got an award 2 weeks ago.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
You didn't tell me about this. What, you've been keeping secrets from me?
No, I just been, as you know, it's like end of the semester, so just been real busy. But I definitely should have mentioned this to you, but it was the Fred and Corinne Grates / Raymond Simon Institute Achievement Award.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
That is a great honor. That's a great award.
I appreciate you. Yeah, I was definitely honored to get the award, and to have my dad there to watch me hear Professor Bernacci, like what she had to say about me, and just meet some of my other professors. It was a cool day. But I brought that up to say is that my dad came through for that. He played all my friends in ping pong. He left the day beating everyone. No one
Undefeated?
beat him. Undefeated.
Undefeated. Wow.
Yeah, he's legit for sure. Some athletic campus updates that I want to talk about because it's the theme of athletics. Men's lacrosse program history. They're going to playoffs this year, I think for the second time in their program history. Excuse me if I'm wrong, but that's what I felt that I saw. And then women's lacrosse clinched playoffs. As of right now, I believe they're the 3rd seed of the Empire 8. So what is it like for you, as a university president when you see these athletic teams performing so well on the court or field or ice rink? Just curious about that.
So seeing success by our students in any arena, right? So when the sports teams do well and succeed and move on to playoffs or onto the national stage like our hockey team did this year, or several of our track athletes did as individuals, or several of our gymnasts did as individuals, there's always a great sense of pride because for those of us who are here, we love this place, right? And to show the rest of the world that we're legit and we're here and we're competitive, you always feel so good about it. But the other thing is, for me, is that I know for these students personally, so I'm like proud for the institution, but these students personally are so excited. And I feel such pride and like, just maybe like a parent for them. Like, you did this thing and it's amazing.
Yeah.
And congratulations. So it's both institutional and it's for the individuals themselves. It's something we should all celebrate.
Yeah. It's funny you bring this up because we've talked about like your connection to different student athletes and why, maybe you've been closer with them when you were teaching here at Utica. But one student that I wanted to bring up was Hunter Remley. I don't know if you remember, but so when we first filmed episode 1 and dropped the trailer, he slid up on my Instagram story. He was like, President Nesbitt, like, she's the best, she's awesome. So just talk about, having student athletes in the classroom and what you feel like student athletes gain from playing at a school where academics are the primary focus.
Right. So student athletes here on campus at Utica, and I think this is true in Division III as well, student athletes come here and they know they're not headed on to the pros, right? They're just looking to continue a career of competitive sport and something that they love. So they come to campus and they're really focused on their athletics, but they also tend to be good students, or students who can be good with a little guidance and direction.
For sure.
Right, my friend?
Yeah.
Right, my friend? Students who are really organized. They come to class, they're ready to be in the classroom, just like when they come to the court, they're ready to play. So I know most of the faculty feel here to have a student athlete in our class is a gift because they're great students and they're great additions. I remember talking to a chancellor at a very large Division I school at the last few years, and I shared that with him, and he said, that isn't my experience at Division I, that the student athletes, they're high-performing athletes. Many of them are looking for careers in professional athletics. They don't come to class ready. They're not so interested in their academic experience. And so he told me how very lucky I was to be in a place where that was different.
I think that's what makes like the Division III model so unique.
Yes.
Because a lot of, like you mentioned it in the first episode, like I said, it got cut, but a lot of student athletes will come to, college and play Division III sports because they love the sport. A lot of student athletes are taking out loans or paying out of pocket to come to these universities and play sport, but mostly you're doing that out of the love of the sport. That's my situation at least. Yep. I love basketball and I wanted to continue playing basketball and have that camaraderie in college, have that brotherhood, and I definitely gained it here. But talk more about, from your perspective, what makes that Division III model unique.
Well, I think you've hit the nail on the head, right? Yeah. Students don't come here with an expectation to monetize their athletics.
Yeah.
They don't. At Division I, in the major sports, so there are Division I sports, and certainly this is still true in many of the women's sports, unfortunately, right? Students go to Division I with an expectation to monetize their athletic career. Students come here to continue an athletic career for something they're really passionate about. And you sort of hit on it a little as we were prepping for this and talking last week. There's a shift in your mentality, in your thinking, in the way you carry yourself when you're thinking about taking that athleticism and turning it into money. Right? There's some gap that happens between that passion you had for it when you started playing and what your expectation is now.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing that sort of drives Division III. It's the passion to continue playing competitively. It's the camaraderie that you find in the team. A lot of times when you shift to Division I, athletes are in it for them. They lose sight of that team approach and that team feeling. And that's why you can see a team like a Siena come into the NCAAs and give a strong challenge to a team like Duke, right? Because they're still seeing that team approach, that sense of community, that part of belonging to something bigger as opposed to what's in it for me down the road. And I think that's along with the fact that students come to Division III a little more focused on their academic experience and what their final life outcome is.
100%. I mean, just from doing the podcast, athletes will go to Division III schools and choose the Division III schools over Division I schools primarily because of the athletics. Academics, primarily because of the academics. So that's an interesting point you bring up too. But I wanted to talk about too the teacher to student just relationship, because at Division I, it's you probably have bigger class sizes for those big universities, but at Division III, it's at Utica, it's much smaller class sizes here, right? I can actually meet the professors and have a real genuine connection with them. So that's another thing I love about being here at Division III, especially when you have like professors in your class like, hey, like good job, good game this past weekend. That was a great win. Like doing that in front of the class, it's like an extra sense of pride almost.
Yeah. And athletics, so if we think about athletics and how important they are to the university, our university athletics are really important to the community here.
Yeah.
That SUNY Poly set of basketball games in the winter, this gym was rocking. You were here. This gym was rocking. People turned out to see both the men and the women play.
Yeah.
When we were down at the Odd for hockey or at the Nexus Center for women's hockey, these places are just loud, and the community is there to support us. So I think sometimes people, complain that here in the United States we're a little too focused on our sports and athletics, and we make too much of our lives revolve around it. But the truth of the matter is, if people like to be active, and they find joy and happiness in pursuing sport, which many people do, it's a great thing, and it's meaningful to our community.
Yeah, it's a community builder, I think, sports as well. I was talking about this with my roommate last night. So you know how some Division I programs are known? So like, for example, Alabama. When you think of Alabama, you think
Roll Tide.
Yeah, you think of Roll Tide and the football program, kind of basketball and Nate Oates last couple years. So I'll start with this. Do you think that that happens at Division III, where you point to a school like a Division III school and think of athletics, or is it mainly like academics first?
I think there are a lot of Division III schools where you can identify athletics. I mean, in the broader sort of Northeast, if you mention Utica University, a lot of people would identify men's ice hockey, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because we've been competitive there for so long. In the closer region, people are familiar with other sports teams that we have that have done very well historically. So I do think to some extent there's some identification of institution and sport.
Yeah.
Not to the extent you see in Division I, but simply because the broader public doesn't necessarily have access to our games, right?
Yeah.
It's a little different now that things are live streamed on YouTube, if you know where to look for it. But big names get big coverage on what used to be national network television, right?
Yeah, for sure. And you don't really hear a lot, from those Division III athletes unless you're listening to Not Even D2. Shout out, a quick plug. If you're listening to Not Even D2, you will know these Division III athletes. But on a serious note, the reason why I asked this is how important are athletics in shaping a university's identity or culture? Just curious about that.
Well, at Division III, they're really fundamental now, because they're a large part of sort of how we recruit and attract students sometimes, right?
Talking about through admissions, right?
Yeah. So students have a lot of options for their college experience. The presence of athletics makes a huge difference for what the campus ends up looking like. For us, and the numbers fluctuate year to year, but we could run anywhere from high 30s to high 40s % of our students participate in competitive athletics in some form. So it's bound to impact the culture in that, they're an active student body, they seek physical and outdoor opportunities, and in some ways it impacts areas of study. You see from athletes a lot of interest in programs like sport management and physical therapy, where there's some career continuation connected to sports.
Too.
Sports communication, absolutely. How could I forget that? I'm sorry, my friend.
No, all good. I'm joking.
But you see people who recognize that their talent on the field or on the court doesn't rise to a continued career, but they can do something that's connected to athletics to continue.
For sure. And can you talk a little bit more about how, the approach in admissions when it comes to athletics fueling, I don't want to say fueling, but how that number is set really with 40% of our student body being student athletes? Just curious about that.
So that's really just a function of how big a roster you need for certain athletic teams. Football ends up being the biggest because football rosters are just big, right? And high contact sports.
Yeah, injuries and stuff, yeah.
So you have to have deeper bench, and that's just how that sport works. So the impact on admissions is, Coach St. Hilaire works with the other coaches, and they figure out what we need for rosters, who's staying, who's not staying, who's graduating. And then that helps fashion our recruiting goal and how many athletes the coaches are going to be seeking to add, and that becomes part of our overall plan for our enrollments in any given year.
For sure. And you mentioned Coach St. Hilaire. That's she was a lacrosse coach while I'm still a student here, but she.
Few more days.
Yeah, a few more. Yeah, 12 more days. A tear coming down my eyes a little bit.
I can't believe this. I can't believe this.
I know it's a bittersweet thing, but. I wanted to mention Coach St. Hilaire because how involved is she on your week-to-week, like I said, to-do list, for lack of a simpler term, a better word?
So Coach St. Hilaire, as the athletic director after Dave Fontaine departed, Dave was great.
Yeah, had a lot of great
Coach
conversations.
St. Hilaire is great. Kristen St. Hilaire is great. She knows NCAA compliance. She has such concern for the student athletes and their well-being and the success of our teams. She's a real asset to this institution. I'm so glad to have her on my team. The good news for me as a president, with lots to take care of right now, is that she could do all this without me. She comes to me, she consults with me, but she usually has the right answer, and I don't disagree with her. It's just more of a sounding it out, and am I thinking about this correctly? And that's the beauty of having a really talented team working with you, right?
Yeah.
Is that they make your job easy and make you look really good. And St. Hilaire makes me look really good.
For sure.
But she's part of my direct reports, so she reports directly to me. We meet on a bi-weekly basis to tend to business. If she needs me, she has my cell phone, we text, we call. And there have been some things where we have to talk at 9:30 on a Saturday night, but that's okay. But she's an integral part of the leadership team at this institution because athletics are so important to who we are and what we do.
For sure. Real quick, when you look at Utica's campus and you think about what they offer the student athletes, like the Dome, Gaetano Field, this gym in particular, the AC, it's a lot of opportunities for student athletes to excel here. And so you mentioned how you work with St. Hilaire just on a bi-weekly basis. And when it comes to support or resources, how do administrators decide what resources or support athletic programs should get?
Yeah. That's a great question. And we've talked about this in a couple of different areas, right?
Yeah.
Like how do we get to budgets? How do we decide what resources go where? So some of it comes from historical spending, right? What did we spend last year? What did we spend 2 years ago? What did we spend 3 years ago? Because some of budgeting works on average, just like your own household, right? How much do I need for groceries every week? Sort of build my budget based on that. So we start from that point. Then we start to look at what's going on in the world, how many contests we need to add, or how many we might actually sort of subtract. And I know student athletes don't like to hear that maybe we would play fewer contests than we played before, but sometimes that makes sense because transportation tends to be one of the most expensive parts of athletics for Division III. And that's how we start to get at cost for our athletes. We also have to keep in mind that we have to provide training staff and safe experiences, safe and healthy experiences for our students, and that becomes a component of the cost. And there's a huge, huge component that's game day operations. So whether that's student workers or other coaches pitching in to help us out, those are important. You roll all that together, and that's how you start to get at what the cost is. Part of that also is supported by booster or donor funds. So there's operating costs from the institution that is contributed, and most of the cost of operation is operating costs from the institution. But there is some portion that's supported by booster and donor funds.
So on that note, we're going to focus on Utica in a little bit, but what are some challenges that you think Division III schools face today when it comes to supporting athletics?
Yeah, cost is one of the big factors.
Okay,
So Division III, probably in the range of about 30 or so years ago, understood how much their students wanted to continue with competitive athletics. And we saw a big buildup in Division III at that time of athletic teams and availability of competition at smaller schools, Division III schools. And schools pumped a lot of operating resources into those. It's an expense, and it's hard to maintain supporting it 100% through operating costs. So one of the biggest challenges facing Division III is how do you balance appropriate allocation of operating costs with what your teams can raise through sponsor dollars, donor dollars, booster dollars, to help provide the students with a high-level experience through their playing experience. Unlike Division I, it's harder for a Division III school to, get Coors Light interested in being the official beer of Utica University, right?
No, and the sponsorships and NIL. I mean, it's Division I. It's a money, especially at the highest level. It's a money-making type of business, money printing business, I should say. But Utica Athletics has an operating budget that the athletic programs work off of.
Right.
Then they will have fundraising or boosters that will help supplement their seasons and help, pay for travel, food, or not food, but travel, jerseys, whatever it may be. When a program doesn't have the same set of, doesn't have a large alumni base, or doesn't have a lot of money coming in through fundraising, do you feel like that puts some programs at a disadvantage relative to others at Utica or in Division III? I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, so that is a hard reality that we try to bring some balance to. So we do know that there are sports that historically and traditionally across all of higher education athletics, Division I, II, and III, just garner more attention. They're more popular, right? So, and we know what those are, right? Football, men's basketball. Here in the Northeast and some of the Midwest, men's ice hockey. Really popular sports and tend to get a lot of attention from donors, a lot of donor dollars, a lot of booster dollars, a lot of sponsor dollars. What we try to do is we have some coaches who are exceptionally good at fundraising, have exceptional relationships within the community, and we ask that they dedicate some portion of their fundraising duties to actually fundraising for all teams. So some of the dollars they bring in are just for Utica University athletics. And in that manner, we try to sort of balance the playing field a little for those sports. But one thing you will find at Division III, and I don't know how true this is at Division I, but even in some of those sports that you might not expect to get those big donor dollars or booster dollars, they have very loyal alumni and very loyal followings by their parents of our athletes who tend to be exceptionally generous.
No, yeah, I mean, I can only imagine that just because, there's a family will always be invested in if they have a, son or daughter on an athletic team, they're going to be invested in that athletic team's success, more than likely. So that definitely makes sense. But I'm just.
But and I won't call out specific teams because I don't want to use specific names. But there are teams where we still have parents whose son or daughter played with us several years ago, who still give very generously to causes related to specific sports. So we find that it's not just while their child is here with us, but it's a continuing relationship for some families that goes on for several years.
It's also too like and this is just me thinking while you're so gracefully explaining the answer to my question. Sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. If we bring together, if programs are using fundraising dollars and they're all putting it towards the athletic programs, right? So if, let's say, men's basketball raised a certain amount of money and you're asking men's basketball to put some of that money towards the other athletic programs in the department, right? If the other athletic programs in the department are lifted up and succeeding, that will only probably help the athletic department as a whole, no?
Right, absolutely. So
I was trying my best to word that. I was losing my train of thought.
So
sorry about that.
That's okay, man.
Yeah.
You've got 12 days left. Have I mentioned that in the last 20 minutes or so?
You're right.
Yeah. There's a common phrase, a rising tide lifts all boats, right? Mm-hmm. So when everyone can do a little better, we will all be better for it, right? So success across all of our teams and sharing resources as appropriate across all our teams makes sense. There are smaller teams. Let's use golf as an example. A lot of people play it as a second sport. Mm-hmm. New coach, new approach this year, and we're getting better numbers and people participating there than we have in many years. So making sure that we can support them as much as we support something that's well known like men's ice hockey, it's really important, because that's an important reason why people come here. It's an important reason why people stay with us, because we offer them that opportunity to play that second sport. Again, something that doesn't often happen in Division I. You know, athletes can't avail themselves of the opportunity to play a second sport.
For sure. And you mentioned earlier on in the episode how, athletics are sometimes the only connection that a community will have, to a university, right? So when people go to Gaetano Field, or when they go to the, ice hockey arena, Adirondack Bank Center, or Miga Court, sometimes they just want to watch basketball. They want to watch football. They want to watch hockey. How is it for you when, a school that you're leading has that type of impact on the community? Because I've seen what the community can do for sports here. I think back to 2025, I made a video about it on Instagram, the 2025 EA Conference Championship, right, where there were 2,000 plus people here in the stands. There's people watching the games in the lobby. I think about the Hobart Utica final, national championship, men's ice hockey final, where felt like everybody was in there. I couldn't even get a ticket, but I was watching through the screen and I could feel the energy of the crowd. So just talk about that aspect of Utica sports in the community here.
Yeah. So community involvement on campus in anything is so important and so meaningful to us, right?
Yeah.
So you just nailed it. We've had some sporting events, huge ones where the whole community is vested and hoping for us to do well. We have small ones where people come. You were telling me about a gentleman you noticed. He just came to every basketball game, whether it was a big one or not.
Yeah, it didn't matter.
It didn't matter. He just came because he enjoyed basketball, and the opportunity to see it live it's just different. But it's the same feeling I have as a president when we see Strebel Auditorium packed for the spring show, or both of the spring shows, because we ran two. It's the same feeling I get when they come in to the Nassar poetry reading, or to see the string ensemble play, or our concert band. There are a lot of things here, and we have strong community supporters, and sometimes they don't say hello. They just walk in, they enjoy the event, and they leave, right? But you notice them, and you notice the faces.
It's very true.
What about Professor Befarouz, retired faculty member, and he and his wife are still at every cultural event that we have on campus, and at a lot of the sporting events too, right?
Yeah. I think about, I've never had him as a professor, but I think is it Rossi?
Dr. Rossi,
Dr. Rossi. So a couple of my teammates have had him as a professor, and they become very close with him.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of people just talk how much they love him. But he used to come to all the games and
Yeah.
come support the students. So
Yeah.
it's awesome to see. Like I said, it's cool to see when faculty members are supporting, you know, some of the student athletes that they have in the class. I know we talked about a lot of the challenges that Division III sports face, but what are the opportunities for growth that you see in Division III sports?
Oh, yeah, there's great opportunity for growth. And, you know, let's talk about this. So athletic programs and sports are a lot like our academic programs, right?
Mm-hmm.
We look at them from time to time. We consider what people are interested in or want to participate in today, in
Yeah.
today's world, right? We don't, as an American culture, we're not as interested in certain sports as we used to be,
Mm-hmm.
right? So there's an ebb and a flow to those. There are some new and emerging sports that we're really excited about. Can't say anything.
Okay. Okay. Now I'm intrigued.
Stay tuned. Stay tuned. Some big news coming. Some exciting news coming. But there's great opportunity for athletics, for student interest in athletics and community interest in athletics. And me, personally, because this is important to me, I started playing competitive sports when women were just being given a chance to play competitive sports. Like, I played my first softball game in the 1970s when we decided to create Title IX to make equal opportunity for women athletes.
Wow.
Right? You're going like, wow, you're old.
No,
I am. Yeah, I am. So really of interest to me is I see evolving opportunity for women athletes, particularly in Division III, particularly in opportunity to play competitively,
Mm-hmm.
and more women participating as in second sports as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not just our male athletes that do that now. So I think there continues to be great opportunity, some new sports coming on the horizon, so excited about. And we will continue to embrace that part of our image and who we are, because it's been a foundation for this university now for decades.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, no, when I said wow, I thought that was really just moving. I didn't even know that about, you know, you playing
Yeah, I mean,
softball
when
in
I was
Title IX.
first in elementary school and playing in the
Yeah.
1970s, opportunity for women athletes to play was just becoming a thing.
So it must be, I don't want to say wild, but how happy does it make you when you see, I'm going to use women's basketball as the example for this, when you see, and at the Division I level too, when, you know, I think it was last year's national championship when Caitlin Clark was playing, like, broke some of the men's viewership records. So what is that like for you to see that coming? That's in your lifetime, like.
You know what? So many things I thought I'd never see in my lifetime that have come to fruition, and good for that. Those things make me so happy, because, you know, I've heard people say, "Oh, women's basketball, I don't watch it; it's boring."
Mm-hmm.
It's a different style of game. There's a different strategy to it, but it's a great game if you understand that it's not the same as the men's game. Women's ice hockey, the same thing, right? And in fact, no disrespect, guys, but sometimes I prefer the women's game because the men's game is so fast, it's hard to keep up with what's going on. Like,
That's not the first time I've heard
yeah,
that too.
Women's hockey, just a little bit slower, and you have more sense of what's going on the ice. You can sort of get in there and feel it with the players a little more. So, you know, for me as a woman, as a person who wants equality for people in athletics, because I think athletics can be an important part of a happy life, those things mean the world to me. To see viewership records set for women's NBA basketball championship finals, awesome. To see uptick in people, spectators at WNBA games, awesome. To see more professional women's sports, professional women's volleyball, you know, out there playing in the Southwest a lot, fantastic. And, you know, inch by inch, you drive these things forward with the success that you see and the level of performance and competition from women athletes on the field.
That's awesome. I mean, I think in the Division III level, we interviewed a player from NYU. Her name was Caroline Pepper, and we never really dove into the topic of being a Division III athlete and the impact on that she's. We didn't really talk about too much, but one thing that I mentioned to her, I saw a video of Caroline. A little girl asked her for an autograph after her game, and NYU is a Division III school, and I said, the fact that you're a Division III women's basketball player and a little girl's coming up to you asking for an autograph, that should speak volumes to you, and I hope you are proud of that, because some people will look at that and be like, wait, that's a Division III athlete, why is that little girl? No, it's not about that. It's like the little girl saw Caroline, who is a bucket and one of the best women's basketball players in the last couple of years in Division III, saw Caroline play, wanted her autograph, and is maybe inspiring the next generation of hoopers.
Right.
So
I would take Caroline's autograph just in case there's any question here.
I'll try to. I'll reach out to her and see.
Because she is a great player.
Yeah, for sure. That's all I got though for episode 3 in terms of questions. We got rapid fire though.
Oh, what are we rapid firing today?
All right, so you ready for rapid fire?
I'm always ready for rapid fire.
All right, so first rapid fire question for you. Who is the funniest person in your media circle here at Utica?
Provost Ann Damiano.
And explain a little bit about his humor.
Oh, Ann Damiano, she's just got this dry humor. It just kills me. And she's funny because she comes out with stuff in just this very reserved manner, and it cracks me up every single day.
I gotta talk to her then. I gotta see about this.
Yeah, go check it out.
Yeah. Next rapid fire question I got for you. So I need you to say, a lot of people will hate on the winters here, right? But there are some people who love the summers here. I need you to say one thing you love about the winters here and one thing you hate about the summers here.
One thing I love about the winters here, I really enjoy the food that you associate with winter. I gotta be honest, because when it's hot during the summer, you can't load up on your pasta. You're not really looking for your meatloaf. Yeah, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But man, based on the food we have here in Utica, winter just means comfort food, going to town on Riggies, just eating those things that you associate with home and you just don't want during the summer.
Yeah.
The thing about the summers I don't like, I am not a heat and humidity person. It gets a little sticky around here come July. I would like a pleasant 75 degrees and sunshine, but I think the summers get a little too hot. And here in the foothills of the Adirondacks, the insects can be a bit much.
Next, I mean, I've been here for one summer. I could definitely speak to that humidity. It's definitely rough, but both my parents from Puerto Rico. I love the sun. I feel like it's in my blood, so I'll never shy away from the sun.
I don't work well in the sun. Sorry.
Next, or last rapid fire question I got for you. So NBA playoffs just started. WNBA season starts in May, if I'm not mistaken. College basketball has just ended. Are there any teams that you're paying attention to or paid attention to this past? Because we're in the basketball gym, so I got to ask about basketball.
So basketball, I don't catch as much as I'd like, but I'm a longtime Liberty fan. I don't know why, because they can be tough to love at times, but you gotta love the Liberty and the WNBA. In the NBA, longtime Celtics fan. Just love the Celtics.
Kelly's a Celtics fan too.
Don't know why, can't explain. But the team and the race I'm watching right now is Premier League soccer out of the UK.
Okay.
We've got a tight race between Arsenal and, frankly, in my opinion, the best team in the league, Manchester City. Manchester City beat Arsenal yesterday.
Okay.
They had one game in pocket. So depending on the point spread here on Wednesday, you know, they could be really, really tightening up that race. It's going to be a photo finish between Arsenal and Man City for Premier League Cup this year.
I'm gonna have to stay tuned to that. I haven't really watched too much of the Premier League, but I'll make sure I watch out for the standings next couple of weeks.
So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, for sure. But that's gonna do it though. Episode 3. Damn, it's crazy. Like you said, 12 days left.
12 days.
I think we're gonna be filming. Whenever we film episode 4, we're gonna talk about, you know, my journey here at Utica and flipping the script a little bit, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
All right. That is a wrap. Campus Catchup.